Everybody has an idea, right? Everybody has an idea. But if you don't have an agent and you don't have a manager and you don't have a cousin who used to work for Netflix, what are you going to do with it?
Hey, welcome to the Unscripted Files. My name is Madeline Cunningham. I am a development producer in the unscripted industry, bringing you candid, casual, compelling conversations with the minds behind your favorite form of entertainment. Today, we have a startup founder and seasoned producer on the podcast who's talking to me all about development. If you have a show idea, what should you do? Right? Everyone has ideas. I am reminded of that every single day on TikTok when I scroll and I'm like, there are people smarter and funnier and more creative than me. So what happens when you have an idea, you don't quite have the network connections, or you don't know what to do next? Well, he's created a platform for that called ShowReelie that connects ideas to producers, specifically in unscripted, factual entertainment. So interesting to talk to Adam to hear about how he got into the entertainment industry and ultimately how he built ShowReelie, what was really important for creators and what was important to producers. So without further ado, here's my conversation with producer and founder Adam Wilkenfeld. Adam, welcome to the Unscripted Files. How's it going?
Hey, Madeline.
You doing good?
Yeah, I'm excited. We had so much fun talking on the phone yesterday. You're super easy to talk to, so I'm excited for today.
Good. I appreciate that so much. Yeah, the pre-warm-up call is always nice. Sometimes I get on here with guests. It's the first time we're ever talking. We sort of figure it out. But it was great to chat. In fact, we had to cut off the conversation yesterday because we were like, okay, we could talk forever. Like, let's save it for tomorrow,
Save some of this for TV. Yeah, that's what we always say, right? Save it for the cameras. This is too good.
Right.
Save it for the cameras. We have a lot in common. We've done a lot of the same things through our careers, and I think that just makes it so easy.
I think, you and I were chatting, like, we could talk about a million different things, right? But you are an entrepreneur. You have a startup right now that is all about matching up creators with producers. And so I would love for this episode to focus on just that. But if someone really does have an idea, what does that look like? If they have access, they stumbled upon something, it's the family friend or whatever it may be. I'm always hearing people who are like, I have this access, I know about this thing, but how do I get with the right people? How do I match it up with producers? And you've created a platform for that. So it's really cool to have you on.
Everybody has an idea, right? Everybody has an idea. But if you don't have an agent and you don't have a manager and you don't have a cousin who used to work for Netflix, what are you going to do with it?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So I just love this. But I want to know really quickly, you didn't just have this idea and you worked in finance. Like, you're a seasoned producer. You understand the development process. You have been there before. I'd love to talk about how you got into the industry. Was it an early passion? Was it something different? And just kind of hear about your entry into entertainment.
When I was growing up, literally the only television channel that my television could receive, I was in Asia for 11 years, Indonesia, Burma, and the Philippines. The only television station was CNN International. So when I wasn't at school, when I didn't feel like doing my homework, when I was sick, I was watching the space shuttles go up. I was watching the Berlin Wall come down, the first Persian Gulf War, live and living color. And I wanted to work for CNN. I wanted to be in TV. And that's how I wound up going to journalism school, getting into journalism, getting to be a producer, and getting experience talking to people, meeting interesting people and who are doing interesting things. And that's really what reality TV is, right? That's what Unscripted is all about. Interesting people doing interesting things.
100%. It is journalism. It is a study of human behavior. It's documentation of cultures, subcultures, maybe forced cultures, but it's the study of its own little world. So that's so interesting. I could talk to you. I'm like so curious even about your upbringing and how that shaped who you are. What was your first foray into entertainment? And in reality specifically, was there a specific opportunity that was given to you? Like, talk to me about those first few steps.
I like to start the story off with a sport called canyoneering because nobody's ever heard of it. I had never heard of it, but it's amazing for anybody who is a little bit daring and likes adventure. You jump off of waterfalls, rappel down waterfalls, and swim through canyons, swim through caves. And my old landlord was super into that sport. And he invited me to go down to Monte Contes in Mexico. And I had an amazing time. And an old army friend that was on the trip of his that was on the trip with us when we came back. And mind you, this is Los Angeles. Like everybody knows somebody in TV, but he didn't. He was a photocopy salesman, like one of those like old school go door to door to your place of
Love
business
it.
and do you need a coffee machine? And he's like, Adam, I had this idea for a reality show and will you help me cut a sizzle? I didn't even know what a sizzle was, but he was a friend and I had had a great time on this adventure with him. And so he brought over some found footage. That's footage that he had found on YouTube or old. I remember there were some old DVDs that we scraped, and we put that together into what today would call a taster reel. Like it was a minute, maybe a minute and a half, that just showed the world. And really, that phrase, "show the world of that television concept," is what it takes, just that, to hook a network, to hook a buyer. And that's what happened. And fast forward several months, and I'm filming my first reality show as the showrunner.
Wow. It does. I will say that is such an incredible story. I feel like it doesn't happen so much anymore in that way. Like you know what I mean? I feel like it feels like there's so many obstacles, which is why ShowReelie is so great. But I love that, like, oh, I came across this world, we pitched it, and all of a sudden I'm show running it and just it's trial by fire. You're like figuring it out.
Well, that is why ShowReallie is actually really cool, I think, is because it is so hard as a development person to come, you know this, to come up with, to find these worlds. Everything has
Hmm.
been done, everything has been exposed. And if a producer hasn't found it themselves, then somebody else who actually lives in that world has had the idea because they've seen so much else similar to raise their hand. Right. So it's really hard as a development person to find these worlds. And so for a place like ShowReallie to exist, where as a producer, it's such an easy sell. You mean I can go on and browse, search, set search alerts for keywords and have it come to me? They love it. It's so easy. They love it.
Well, I was telling you that yesterday. I think it's brilliant. And also in this era of really needing to search, like, sure, we can stumble upon something, right? But we're starting to have to get a little more specific, especially now that we are at the intersection of brands and entertainment. And we're having to get a little specific of like, maybe we have a mandate from an airline. Maybe we have a mandate from a manufacturer, whatever. And so the fact that you can get in there, explore, but also search is so interesting. Let's talk about so creators can submit and put things on your platform, but let's talk about what it takes to get there. Let's talk about the materials, right? You've got a deck, you've got a sizzle, you've got your copy. Walk me through, especially as a first time creator or someone who's got a nugget of an idea or access, what materials do you need to develop?
I like to say you can start so small. You can start with a title and a log line. And that's all you need to get started on ShowReallie. You could add more over time. Some people have a full blown out sizzle. Some might have a little taster, and some might have a pitch deck or just a few links to the cast that they have in mind. Here's their social media. Here's a little interview that they did on the news. All you need is a little bit of a hook to introduce that world, the same that I did with Saw Dogs. That was that first show, right? And it was that I had the point of that story isn't that here's this wonder kid who sold his first show and got to run it. The point of the story is that you don't actually, I had no experience in reality. The point of the story is that if you can find, and I didn't even find the world, I just helped my friend who had found the world. But if you can find a world, it doesn't take a super polished sizzle reel and it doesn't take super polished pitch deck. It takes just a glimpse of it and then meeting the right producer. And that's what ShowReallie is all about,
Mm,
is to introduce you to a producer who knows how to take that and turn it into a format, give it some structure and kind of some, whether it's a male skewing show, that give it some stakes, give it a clock, things that we talk about, right? Which that show was, or if it's more of a female skewing show, we talk about maybe is it more aspirational? We talk about that, how to give it, not in a sexist way, but because you have to sell it to a buyer. and the buyer has identified themselves as we are a platform, a network that has this viewer, and this viewer comes to us for aspirational shows. So if you're Bravo, you want something very different from Discovery or from Netflix. It's just a different. So you have to know who your buyer is and who you're going to be pitching to, and design that pitch material for them. And that's what a producer can help you with. Your job on ShowReelie is just to hook them. It's just to show them the world.
No, it's a great point that when you're putting your projects up, you are not putting them up for a buyer. You are putting them up for a producer who's going to act as an intermediate to be able to shape your materials and shape what you have into something and create a pitch for a buyer. A producer, we have the ability and to be able to see something and know the spark and want to work with it. You know what I mean? And so I think it's nice that you mentioned that sure, make sure you have the best materials and make sure you have something compelling, but you don't need a lot. You don't need to produce your own sizzle. You don't need to come out of pocket for these things. If you have something strong, put it out there. And a producer has that instinct to be able to latch on and then to shape it with you and prepare it, use all the knowledge they know about the market, about materials in order to get it ready for the right buyer.
It's like, I think that in the real estate market, there's probably two different types of people, right? The type of person who wants to live in the house that's done, that you move in and it's move in ready.
Mm-hmm.
The paint, the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen is done. Or there's a type of buyer who wants to live in the house that they can come in and do some reno, do some fixer upper, and make it look the way that they want it to look. Now, in the TV space, the buyers are the fixer upper type. More than likely, your producer or your network, they want you to come in with an idea and let them work with you to develop it into something that works well for their mandates, for their viewer, for their network executives, something that maybe can float on a show that has been successful for them. They want to be, you don't want to go and be like, this is how it is, and I've already made the first episode, and come and buy it or don't
We
buy it.
filmed
Like,
a pilot.
we filmed the pilot. No, they want you to come in, because you know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get if you get. Oh, it's too bad. That would have been so good if only it had been a half hour instead of an hour. If only you'd used a narrator. If only you hadn't used a narrator. If only you'd had a female cast instead of. If only you'd had one more male character. If only you'd skewed a bit younger or a little bit older, or did more info and less entertain. Like, they're always going to find something that isn't exactly what they wanted. So bring them in on the process. Let them be part of it. And I think that there's a fallacy that you have to be exactly like completely ready and everything is bespoke, ready to write. It doesn't have to be that polished. Now, I want to say one other thing though, because we're talking right now as if everybody on the platform is a complete newbie and has never, general public. But then there's also just as many award-winning producers, field producers, directors, editors, DPs, directors of photography that are on the platform, not because they don't know they know what good TV is. They know how a good pitch looks. They know what a great character is. They even know how to do a great sizzle. Like, some of these concepts, you're like, has this already been on? It looks like it looks like the show is already made. It's amazing. And they just don't have those network relationships. So they need a producer to partner with, to take them to the network and make the introductions, and boom, they're ready to go. So I have just as many as those as well. So everybody's, whether it's your first pitch or your 10th pitch, it's ShowReelie can be your home. Everything looks great. On the platform is gorgeous. Your concept is going to look great, and you don't need to worry about whether I've done this before or not. We've got you on that. It's going to look good, and producers are going to be there to hunt for it. Your job is just to hook them.
I love that. And I'm glad you called that out too, because you're right. Sometimes the barrier to entry is not that they haven't done this before, or they haven't picked up a camera or know how to shoot something incredible or find a story. It's just that relationship or that access piece is missing. And again, that's where the producers come in. And we are, as you know, you and I, as hungry as these guys are to get their idea out there, we are hungry for them. We are constantly trying to generate new things. We need access into new worlds. So it's a really wonderful symbiotic relationship. One more thing I'll say about buyers wanting to shape projects, right? It's because everyone has their own brand. Like, you can tell when something typically is like a Hulu project, a Netflix project, right? Everything has its own style. So my point of view on that is like, have a really strong entry point and make sure you're not just like, here's the world, we could do anything. Like, have a strong entry point. If it's a format, it's like, have a strong thesis. What are we testing? But be flexible
Be
and be
flexible.
collaborative, right? So be an expert on your world, be an expert on your format. That's what you should know backwards and forwards, and then be flexible and collaborative when you start to get in the rooms with buyers and understand that they're going to want to shape it to their demographic, their tone, and their multiverse of content. So,
Yeah, 100% true. And then going back to something you said before about how the execs and the producers, you're helping them, and they want because in this world where budgets are coming down, and development departments are getting slashed, and people are wearing more than one hat, and it's not easy to come up with 10 new concepts a week, or 30 a month, right? It's not easy to do that looking at a blank screen or a blank piece of paper. If you can have people bringing in polished ideas that are easy to browse and search, that's very welcome.
yeah, absolutely. You mentioned something earlier where you're saying you keep an eye on the platform, you see what ideas are coming in. This is really interesting to me. I mean, you have a really interesting sample set of what creators are bringing in, where people's heads are. I'm sure it's not unusual for you to see some of the same ideas or same themes. What are you seeing a lot of lately, and what does it seem like people are creating? Are you seeing any trends, or what's kind of sticking out to you?
That's such an interesting question. Well, I think that if we have the same conversation a year from now, and let's do, then I will, because I've got crazy analytics that I've just put on the back end. I I think that if I go to Real Screen Industry Conference in a year or so, then I will be the person who knows where the industry is going
Mm,
more than anyone, because I know what producers are searching for. I
right.
can see what they're setting their search alerts for. I can see what
That's so
categories they're
interesting.
right? And I can see which kinds of concepts are getting a lot of love and which ones aren't, and you can kind of extrapolate from that what it takes to get that attention.
Mhm.
So I think that's a whole really interesting, the analytics of where this can go.
Yeah, seeing what producers are searching for is so interesting, and I'm like, "Hey, I wanna know how long after the quarterly mandates are released and what keywords are in the mandates, and then I wanna see what's being searched for on ShowReelie, and then I wanna," you know what I mean? Like, it's just so interesting to think through that, but no, it's again, you've provided such an amazing thing, but those back end insights and the data that's there, I think is really fascinating as well. So on your platform, I would love to talk more just about again what you guys are about. So as a creator, you can get on, you can upload materials, but all you need to get started is a log line and a title. And then you can add more materials as you wish. And so those projects are up, browsable, searchable. On the producer side, you can get in, you can search by keyword, you can browse projects. What other parts and pieces are there to show really?
The piece that I love well, there's two things, from one from the creator standpoint, and one from the producer standpoint, that I really think are like defining and that I love. And if you're a producer and you're on the phone with Netflix, and Netflix says, "Hey, do you have a concept about Greenland right now?" You can literally be on ShowReelie and search that word, right?
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying is like the ability to search, like
To
it's
search for
pretty,
that word, and then to set the search alert, and to have it come to your inbox the moment that
yeah.
somebody publishes that. So I think that is landscape changing on the producer side, because often, as you said, if for anyone who knows the word mandate in TV, like the networks will tell you, like, we're looking for it now. Mind you, asterisks, they often don't buy what they say that they want, right? Isn't
Yes,
that
of
the
course.
worst? Oh, we want our version of this. And then you're like, but you went that whole different direction. 6 months later, you're like, what? You didn't buy that at all. I spent all that time looking for that and you didn't buy that at all. But when they tell you what they want, you want to try to come back to them really quickly. And so you can do that with this platform.
You do. You're exactly right. You want to keep the conversation going because, so oftentimes a pitch, I mean, way more often than not, you get the rejection, right? You get the pass. and they say, but we were looking into this world. Do you have anything here? And the goal is just say yes, keep the
Keep it going.
conversation
Yes,
going,
of course
right?
I do.
You can go, yeah, you can go, you know what? Yes, let me look over here. So I love that. I mean, you are thinking with a producer's mind and you really understand the full funnel of this process. And so it's so incredible that you've implemented that here. I know even though we want to release the pressure from creators to like have something perfect up on ShowReelie, and really they need to focus on the hook. But I am curious, are there some common mistakes you see in first timer or materials or people who maybe again are in the industry but aren't necessarily in development, right?
Let me get really close to the microphone. Yes,
Let's hear
yes,
them.
yes, yes. As a producer, we as development people always see, right? You like these ideas like, hey, what if we did the show about XYZ? And you know what? I have enough half-baked ideas of my own. I don't like that didn't sell. I don't need your half-baked idea also, right? I need something that's got some structure. I'm not saying you have to think about every detail, like here's the shape of an episode, here where all the beats are going to be. No, I just want you to be like, here are the characters. That's a good start. Don't just tell me, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we came up with a show idea about a hairdresser who blah, 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 right? No, bring me the hairdresser who's got a personality, who's got an interesting, who's got interesting clientele, who's got works for the rich and famous. Like, don't just say, let's do a show about a hairdresser who works for the rich and famous. You actually have to find that person. And not just that, don't just say, let's do a show about so-and-so. Please talk to so-and-so and see if they are interested in doing a show with you, and then get them locked up. And once you've got that, now you've got my attention as a producer. I don't need your half-baked idea. I need you to do a little bit of the legwork yourself, and you've got leverage at that point too, by the way, because this is the number one thing that creators are worried about. Is he going to steal my idea? And I'm not going to no, in Hollywood, there's this well, let's just say idea theft happens a lot less than people think that it does,
Mm-hmm.
but still more than it should. Let's say that. But if you come with that hairdresser, to use my poor example, all locked up, this is a great larger than life person well, let's use a better example from the platform. Someone has got this amazing chef who's opening this really cool restaurant, who's got a huge personality and is just made for TV with like the perfect staff, the perfect home life, the perfect menu, the perfect like it's not abstract. You've actually got this person and he's agreed to do something on camera with you. Now you come to a producer and like, why would they try to steal it from you? Like,
You've built that relationship.
you've spoon fed it. It's like, it's right
That's
there. You're
right.
like, let's get going. Like the ticket is like, let's get going. And two, like they couldn't. Like how
Right.
do you steal that?
Exactly. No, it's a great point that we talk about worlds and entry point to worlds, but they're nothing without characters. And the next thing that you will get asked from a producer, from a buyer, when you're like, let's look at I'll use an example because let's look at rich kids on the lake in the Ozarks in the summer, right? And it's like, that's great in theory, but who are they? And
In theory, but
that's what
who are they? Yeah.
but you have
What
to
is their
and here's the
relationship?
thing is the world could also sound and be amazing, and the characters could just fall completely flat. They're not transparent, they're not dynamic. And so really world is one thing, but I find that those sort of let's just do an overview of this interesting subculture is not enough. We have to we got to get the Tiger King, right? We have to crack these characters. That's what it all comes down to, because then those characters become the Bravo celebrities and the favorites and the figureheads at upfronts, and they become their own brand, right? And so you can't make a brand out of a world. But you can build a brand off of people. And that's why characters are so important. So sorry, I digress. But
No, it's 100%. If you've got that person, you don't need to have a perfectly polished sizzle reel. You've got this
exactly,
person who just pops, or a team,
exactly.
like an ensemble that if they pop, they pop. You don't need to sell me on
Yes.
it.
Yes, exactly. So, yes, a world is one thing, but I'm sure as you know this, when people find out you make shows, they're like, you should really do something about TSA agents at airports. I mean, can you imagine what they see? And you're like, yeah, I bet that's amazing. Who should I follow? And it's like, but there's got to be that piece. So to the producers, creators, people who have ideas out there, access to a world is important, but getting those characters on board. If you have something in your ShowReelie account that's like, access secured, exclusivity secured, huge stars for everybody. And
Huge
frankly, when a
stars.
producer comes in, they're going to try to secure that. They're going to have to secure that anyway before you go to a buyer. So, and if you can lock that down, it's major.
Yeah,
And it
you're
shows
ahead.
you're
And
willing to do the legwork.
yeah, and even on the platform, actually, there's a filter. Like the producer's going to use that filter. Like, is talent attached?
Wow,
You
love
know?
that. Oh, you've thought of
Yeah.
everything.
And to go back to your example though, here's a number two of like things that creators like frequent mistakes, right? Um, your example of the TSA, like, are you really going to get access to film at the airport? Is that going to actually happen? Are you going to be able to
Have
film
we
inside of a
thought about
school?
logistics?
Right? Are you going to be able to get inside of a public school with reality TV cameras? How are you going to film inside of a strip club? Like the music, are you gonna license all that music? And what are you gonna do about the nudity and the noise? And what are you gonna do about the customers who don't want their faces on camera? So there's a lot of things that at first you're like, oh, wouldn't like this? I'm the first one to think about doing a show about the
No,
TSA.
no,
But you know what? The problem is be the first one to crack how you're gonna actually do it.
exactly. That's a great. I'm glad you brought this up because that other logistics and access are huge. People have talked all the time. Why isn't there a below deck for private jets? Hmm.
Yeah,
Let's think
because Jeff
about
Bezos doesn't want you
getting
on his jet.
well, and also like the footprint of a jet and getting a crew up there and
Oh,
like
yeah.
doing it on top of the fact that there's like access issues with people. But you're right. There's like think a couple of steps ahead when it comes to execution. Are we dealing with minors on camera because you want to do something in a high school, like whatever it is? Think about it. So that's a great point. You're talking about filters, you're talking about all these things. Do you want to walk me through the platform here? Because I'd really love to see it.
Awesome. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And this is what it looks like when I log in as a producer. You can see there's been 5 new pitches since I logged in yesterday, 22 in the last 7 days. I've looked at 132, and of those, I selected 19 as my favorites. So let me just go to show you what it looks like if you're a producer coming to Scout. And here we go. I can use any search term, of course. I can search by region. We're launched now in the United States, Canada, and the UK. You can search by concept type, format, docuseries, documentary, podcast, all welcome here. Genre, take a look at all of these. These are really important. As a creator, you select these, and then a producer can search and filter and find what they're looking for. So give this a little bit of thought. As a producer, you can take a look and see, show me only concepts since my last login, only concepts that I haven't viewed yet, only concepts that have talent attached, that have brands attached, that have a sizzle reel, that are trending. That means that other producers are looking at these, or that has juice. That just means that Adam likes them. All right, here's the fun part. Inside of an actual concept. This is one of mine, Rantrots. I'm actually pitching it. It's a real concept on the platform now. But every concept on the platform is going to look just this gorgeous, right? It's a form. You don't need to have any experience. It could be your first or your 10th pitch. Upload an image, 2 images, your title, your log line, check some boxes to let the producers know what genre. Again, this is searchable, where it's taking place. A little bit about me. You can read about me. You can click here if you're a producer and read my full bio, see my image. And if I had more than one concept up on the platform right now, and some people have as many as almost 30, you can see the whole slate, scroll down and see what else they're pitching. But going back to the concept, here's a little bit more about it. Here's a sizzle reel that I've uploaded, watchable right here. Just hit play. And here are some links and the deck. Here's the treatment. So everything is all in one page. And if you're a producer, you like it, you can hit favorite. You can grab a link and send it to a colleague. You can message the creator. You can pass, of course, if it's not for you. But if it's really something that's so hot and you're like, I don't want anybody else to see this, I want to jump on this right now, please pull it down from the platform for 72 hours. Give me a chance to have a private conversation with the creator. Then you can do that too. So there you go.
That's amazing. You touched a little bit about idea theft, protecting your ideas. It's one of the reasons we don't have a big forum where people can just post ideas and respond to them, like, or why that hasn't been created yet, because everyone wants to hold things close to the vest and they're afraid. So talk to me about protecting your IP, how you guys do it, what you promise to creators, as producers are in here browsing.
It's a tricky question because, if you spent weeks on something and you've got a lot invested in it, whether financially or just emotionally, yeah, you don't want to see somebody else grab the benefit of your labor. So it's a very real friction. But on the other hand, you also are never going to get a point on the board if you don't talk about it, right? Yes,
So
that's
true.
that's the friction. So what ShowReelie does is, well, first of all, people, you can't copyright an idea. That's just, you can't copyright an idea. But what you can do is you can create a track, you can create breadcrumbs, you can create proof that you had this idea for this world, for this concept, for this format on this day. And you can register it with the WGA for, I think it's $35, but I do it for free on the ShowReelie platform. You join on the platform, and immediately upon clicking the publish button, not publish to the world, but publish to, by the way, not just anybody is on there as a producer. I claim to be a producer, I'm going to go hunt and steal. No, every single person on there is personally vetted by me. They have somebody who has sold a show, sold many shows, have they've got a company behind them. So every producer is vetted, and that's who you're publishing to. And the moment that you hit publish, you receive a PDF in your email box that says, this is your proof of ownership. And you came up with this idea. Here's what it's about. Here's the time and date that you came up with it and put it on the platform. And we talked earlier about the two killer things, one being on the producer side. I talked about the search alerts. On the platform for the creators, the killer thing is the way that you can see every click, every read, every save, every share. So if a producer later on, we said the idea theft happens a lot less than people think, but more than it should. Then if there's ever any dispute,
It's
you did it.
trackable.
Oh, you didn't look at my concept.
It's trackable.
It's trackable. You can print the PDF of like everybody who's looked at and download it to your computer at any time. You can even see like what times of day, heat mapping, what times of day from what
Wow.
part of
Yeah.
the world are producers looking at my concepts. It's very, very trackable. And so to the degree that you want just to have that safety, that feeling of like, I at least want to know who is looking at it and have a record of it. So we provide that.
That's really reassuring. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I'm actually a big believer in talking about your projects to when you're at Real Screen or you're with other producers for a couple of reasons. I think I have had the most success in projects moving because I've said something out loud in a group and someone said, wait. I know someone looking for that. Or wait, I know an agency or an organization that's looking for more stories like this. And I used to hold things close to the vest because I didn't want to share. I was like, oh no, I need to keep these things private. I get that there's, a lot of taboo with a lot of the sharing, but I believe that it is necessary. Obviously do it, in a way that's smart, but I agree. If you want to win the lottery, you gotta buy the ticket. And that means putting your work out into the universe. Like that is essentially what this is. Which I really, really love. Like what's the cost here? Is there a cost for creators? Is there a cost for producers? Is it membership based? Is it subscription based? Like what does that look like? What is the investment?
So right now, the platform is totally free. I've got a lot
Amazing.
of producers up there who are searching, browsing, setting search alerts right now, and hundreds of creators who are hundreds that are putting their concepts up. And I'm growing fast and I'm loving it. And I'm going to start charging pretty soon. But at the moment, it's all free. Come and join. Now is the time. In a month or two, I'm going to start the memberships. It'll be a monthly subscription on the creator side. There will be tiers. It's going to be very affordable. I haven't finalized exactly what that's going to look like yet, but it's going to be something that that makes total sense. Because here's the thing is like, if you're a person who has this idea, this burning idea, and you want to buy, to use your example, the lottery ticket, how are you going to get an agent? How are you going to get this in front of Netflix? How are you going to get it in front of Discovery? How are you going to get it in front of Hulu? How are you going to get it in front of, go down the list. There's all these different buyers. You don't just have to get it in front of one. You might want to get, how are you going to do that on your own? I think that's great value.
Getting that much exposure is major. And again, having it be searchable, being able to add keywords into your concept, make it searchable so that the people that come in contact with your project are the people that are looking for it. Like I said, really symbiotic. It really works. It's awesome. What is, I can't wait to see the success stories for this
I
platform.
can't wait
And,
also. I've got
I
this
can't
little
wait
button
for,
there. I've got this button that says the win button, and I'm waiting for the first person to hit the win button and tell me about their
I love
success.
that. I love that. What does a successful, A to Z story look like on
Yeah. So as excited as I am for that win button for somebody to actually sell their first show, I don't want to define that as the only measure of success, because even as experienced producers, like we were talking about this yesterday, how many concepts do you need to pitch in order to get a sale? Like, what's your ratio? Producers talk about, or development people, what's your ratio? And it's not
Ooh,
one, isn't it?
I haven't counted mine. But like you said, it's not what did I get out of so many of those pitches, right? I took a pitch, it
You
didn't
learn.
happen. You learn, I took the next pitch to them, it sold, or they ended up being like, oh, this is, I don't know, I got a mentor relationship out of it. I made another connection. They introduced me to this production company. Now I can partner with them. Like it's all cumulative. So please continue. And as soon as you said the definition of success is not a sale, I was like,
That's
you
right,
know,
because
ball, because
you
it's so true.
and going back also to what you were saying about when you share your ideas with people, right? The other piece of that is that everybody is so generous in this industry because we've all been there. We've all been helped by so many other people. And so if you share, then you get feedback. Hey, did you think about this?
Mm,
Have you talked to so
mhm.
and so? I once met somebody. Have you been so this format worked for this other like there are so many ways that your friends and even just acquaintances might help level you up once you get your idea out into the marketplace. And that's something else that I really encourage producers to do, is not just to pass on a concept, but to leave feedback on that
Mm,
concept, to help the creators, to help the
huge.
community, right? And producers want to help people.
Yes, 100%. I love that. I was going to ask you, is there an opportunity to leave feedback, to just be like, hey, great sizzle, can tell you have great instincts, do this. Like,
Yeah,
that's huge.
you can leave it in a sentence format, or if you're a producer on the go, you can just fill in a few bubbles, like not my world, or I didn't think the world was big enough, or it's too male skewing, or whatever it is, the reason that you might pass. Producers can give you that kind of feedback. But going back to your original question about what does the success look like, I think that success looks like having your idea be seen. Give it a shot in the marketplace. Have somebody look at it, think about it, try it on for size. And if it's not exactly what they're looking for, learn from that process, keep pitching, keep getting better. And then you'll maybe make the sale on the next one, or get one step closer on the next one, having learned a little bit. And I think that that's the journey.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you completely. And this is a really great time to talk about timing and patience. Let's actually, Adam, talk about how long this stuff takes and how to have patience and resilience in this industry specifically.
Can you give your example? You just still sold a show to Hallmark, right? And
I
how long did
did.
that take you? What was that journey?
A great question. So it's early 2024. I'm in the middle of planning my mom's wedding. In a taxi at Real Screen, I offhandedly mentioned to another producer friend of mine after my mom texted me about flowers. She was like, I was like, oh, if you ever want to do a show about daughters planning their mom's weddings, like, let me know. There's a lot here. And I think women are getting married. It's the Golden Bachelor, millennial Gen Z daughters are coming in. It's generational, what have you, right? Just put it out there. And again, we just talked about the power of talking out loud, like, right? So a couple of months later, this producer calls me and she's like, Hallmark's launching their unscripted slate. They're looking for wedding content. And no one was looking for wedding content. No one still is looking for wedding content. And she was like, do you want to do this? And we ended up going for it. Pitched to Hallmark late fall of 2024. It got a green light July of 2025. Production started September of 2025. And it is premiering on screens May 2026. So,
Congratulations.
well, thank you. That's so nice. It's not fast. and you got
Yeah.
to hold
So
on and you got to
you
be
got to hold
patient.
on. You got to be. So anyone who's like, I posted my concept a week ago and no one has read it yet, or I posted my concept 3 weeks ago and I've only had 3 reads but no messages yet. I'm like, why don't you give it a few months? Give it a few
Totally.
months because producers are looking for different things in different parts of the cycle.
Absolutely.
Networks are looking for different things at different times. Network executives change. One producer who might be looking for wedding content might just be very quiet this month because they're in production this month, or they're shooting 3 sizzles this month, and maybe next month or the month after they'll be hunting again. So you've got to give it 6 months, I think, to give it a fair shot. And now let's also be honest, like not every concept is worthy of being on TV, right? Some
But
are better than
knowing
others.
that, but yes, but like we're talking about what does success look like. Sometimes success is putting your project out there and getting the answer you need about whether you should continue to pursue it or not. I've had this idea for forever. I can't stop thinking about it. I want to put it out there and see what happens. And if it doesn't get a response or it doesn't, everyone thinks that their idea is the best one, me included. And I've been humbled many times on that. But sometimes the best learning and the best success is I need to put this down and I need to move to the next one. Right.
Yeah, that is because you might have 6 ideas, and it's to know when is it time to move on to number 2, 3, and 4. Having learned, by the way, I'll tell you my version of your story, how long it takes, and also kind of like segueing from this idea of like it doesn't happen instantly. With even a concept needs a little bit of time, and so I had this idea, and you know what? Come to think of it, this would have been a perfect concept for me to have found on ShowReelie because the
Mm,
cast found me and convinced me to shoot a sizzle, and that eventually became my biggest show, Timber Kings, which was the biggest show in the history of HGTV in Canada, 4 seasons and a spinoff, highest rated show in the history, and a massive success. That concept I pitched to every single potential buyer and learned from every one of those pitches and but they all passed, but they asked
mhm.
interesting questions. And was
Yes.
able to improve the pitch just a little bit, whether it was my banter, whether it was my materials, whether it was just a little bit sharper on the tape. I was able to improve it a little bit, a little bit, a little bit every time I could. And sometimes I ignored the criticisms because it wasn't what I thought the show should be. And I went down the list, every single potential buyer until the very last potential buyer was HGTV in Canada. And it was a male skewing show. It's about guys who build log home mansions for the rich and famous, like with chainsaws. It's logs. It's a male
It
skewing
shouldn't
show. It
conceivably
should
work for
not
them.
it should not work for a female skewing network like HGTV. But they were interested in something a little bit different. They wanted to bring in a different kind of audience. They wanted to take a big swing on something expensive, and it worked really well. And so not giving up, that's the other lesson here,
Mm,
right? You didn't give up on your idea. You put it in, you put the time into it, and I did on that, and it paid off.
absolutely. And just because you put a project away for an amount of time doesn't mean you shouldn't revisit. There's, like you said, execs shift, culture shifts, interest in culture, like so many things turn over. So if you feel strongly about it, revisit it at another point in time. You never know.
Absolutely right. We say
Yeah.
don't pitch the same thing, until a year has passed. But
Yes.
but the tastes will come back again. Buyers will change. Yeah,
Totally. No, I agree with you. Like I said, I think like do it in a way where when you revisit it and you take it back out, use the learnings to revamp the creative, add some layers, make it right for the marketplace that time. But no, I'm have so many people and myself have revisited projects and taken them back out that previously had been completely passed on and now suddenly there's interest. And that's just how it happens. And that's why, again, building up that resilience is so important. I want to ask you before we go, you're building this platform, you're really trying to think about the future of this industry. We hear about the creator economy so much, and you're part of that conversation of removing those barriers and trying to democratize this process. I want to know what the future of Unscripted looks like for you and if you're optimistic about this industry.
I am optimistic because there are still so many ideas. And if there's one thing YouTube has proved, right? There are so many interesting people doing interesting things. And so I think that a platform like ShowReelie that allows those ideas to surface super easy, super organically. Anybody can put their toe in the water. Right now it's free, but to be able to surface those kinds of from anybody anywhere, even around the world. I have creators with ideas that could be based in the US, format ideas that could be based in the US, but from all over the world are posting them. And it's how else, if you don't have an agent or you don't have a cousin who works at Netflix, are you going so I think that this changing world, I'm really optimistic that there's still so many rocks to be turned over. There's still so much great content out there. And I love for producers to come in and say, let me spend a few minutes and browse. So I think it's going to work.
No, I love that. And you're right. Listen, it feels like we can say like, oh, everything has been done, but it hasn't. There's so much more left to explore, and who knows what we'll be able to explore and uncover. So I love what you're doing. I'm so appreciative. I think it's really necessary. And I can't wait to hear of all the forms of success stories that are very soon to come. I'll add all the ShowReelie information in the show notes as well. So if you're curious, if you're a producer or if you're a creator, please go check it out.
You're so much fun to talk to. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. It was great having you. Thanks so much for listening to my chat with Adam. If you have an idea, go make an account. Get it out there. Get it out there into the universe. Typically, I find that the universe will reward you. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget, like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all the things. And we'll see you next week on Unscripted Files. Thanks so much.